Good afternoon, Nkosi Talk Shows family. It's Nomsa here at Nkosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today, I have Shireen Groove. Hi, Shireen.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Nomsa. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. All ready to chat and be here, which is great.
Awesome. So our topic today is unleashing your authentic self, a guide to developing a strong identity. So what do you think about this topic, Shireen? I'm going to just describe a little bit of a topic. So welcome to our YouTube, our social media channel. And in today's video, we will dive into a topic that holds immense importance in personal growth, developing a strong identity. So join us today as we take on a transformation journey towards unleashing your authentic self. What do you think about the topic, Shireen?
Well, it's really it's a very interesting topic, isn't it? Dealing with our authentic self and what is a self, I think is always a useful thing to kind of really grasp. But I suppose what's really coming up for me and thinking about it is really to understand maybe how or what an identity is, because I think that it's really important to understand when we talk about our identity, what are we attributing to it, and how is our identity formed? And if our identity is a process or is it fixed? I think these are things that can be really useful in understanding a little bit about when we want to unleash our authentic self, because our authentic self is an identity, isn't it? It's an identity of ourself that we claim to be true, or at least represents who we are. So so I thought maybe to start a little, to perhaps give a little bit about how our identity is formed, and maybe also about why is it important? Why do we need to identify with anything? What happens if we don't? I think these are really great questions to kind of explore. But maybe what to start with is to think about how our identity is formed and what it is. And a good definition would be that our identity has to do with the complex manner in which human beings establish the unique view of self, of other, and the world. And it has something that is characterized by a sense of continuity. So something that is always with us, a sense of identity is always with us. And it has a sense of inner unity, a sense of all of our parts being the same in a way. So I kind of think of it like a garment that we carry, that we wear. And that garment we wear allows other people to predict, or even ourselves to predict, how we may or may not respond in a situation. And so the components of our identity would be on how we form our identity depends on, first of all, our sense of ourselves, our whole self-concept, so all the things that we conceptualize within ourselves, our values, our beliefs, and all the ways we develop our personality. So that feels like a kind of a nice way of thinking about our identity. But why is it important? Why is an identity important? I mean, we know that. And I think that we need a sense of identity because we need a sense of wholeness. We need to have a sense of who we are around from the time of our inside and our outside. So we know where we are in space and time. And I get the sense that, we all have muscles and extremities and obviously skin. So each of these attach to certain parts of our brain that create a map for us, right? And this map tells us where we are. and we will walk through the world in relation to that. And I think that we need to have a sense that all of us is going in one direction, right? Because if we're leaving a hand behind or an arm behind, it does kind of seem not quite right. So we try and bring all of us together in every situation. And that means that we can essentially keep all of us safe at the same time. So I have a real sense that our identity is very much connected with our sense of space and our sense of safety. So what might you think that has anything there kind of resonated, or anything that you might think, yeah, I'd like to add to this?
I like the question that you've asked, Shireen, that how is our identity formed? Because it is very, very important to understand that how our identity is formed or is shaped. And also you mentioned quite a few of points of how our identity is shaped. So, and that can include genetic as well. Genetic has an important part in forming our identity, and our upbringing as well has an important part, like you've said, Shireen. But there are some attachment that we can unlearn it to create our own identity. Whatever we've learned from our childhood, from our personal experience, and the culture as well. Culture can influence our identity, and our social interaction as well can influence our identity. And also, like what Shireen said, we could actually unlearn some of the things to actually recreate what we believe to be true when it comes to our identity, and also our sense of beliefs, our values, interest, and how we perceive ourselves in relation to others as well. But if we want to really create our true authenticity, identity, that's when you have to go back to your childhood, to your culture. Some cultural things are planted and they're not true. So you have to unlearn them. Like when I came to United Kingdom, there were some things that things that I've learned from my culture. And then when I came here in United Kingdom, it was my stepdad actually who said to me, Nomsa, you know you are going to United Kingdom and you know it's not your land. And you know what you need to do when you get there. And I was like, what do I need to do? So it was like, you need to learn their culture in order for you to be able to fit in with somebody in that land. You need to learn their culture so you can understand, because if you take your culture and you are living in their land, I'm not saying you need to forget about your culture, but all I'm saying is you need to learn both things, both the cultures. But when I was learning English culture and learning my culture as well, there's some cultures that I realized that are made up in England, and there are some cultures that are made up in my country. So I had to unlearn those things and recreate my own identity. And creating your own identity, sometimes it can be, and people can say, I don't think I want to go through that pain of relearning things. It sounds like too much hassle, but it's actually easy. And the only thing that is not easy is when you're creating habit and you want to keep them. And also, and the other thing is when you want to actually improve your personal development, your true authenticity is actually not easy to be true to yourself, because there are some people that live in a lie where there is no actually their identity. They live their lives based on social media. People live their lives based on their friends, based on their family. But what I realized myself was, okay, I was raised by these parents, two people, What they taught me, it was amazing. But now that they have raised me, now I needed to actually recreate my own identity, because like as I'm raising my children now, I'm raising my children with my own knowledge, but they gonna need to actually create their own identity and bring themselves out. And that true authenticity is how is going to shape their life, not how I have raised them. I can put principles in place and raise them well, and that's when they have to create their own identity. Over to you, Shireen.
Yes, I love it. I love that you've brought those different things in, because they're really important. And I think one of the things that I really started to think about as you were talking is, because we'll come into the authenticity, but really about what is it that kind of defines our identity. And yes, we have our, when we are born, we have a genetic identity that comes with us that might determine our tastes, what we like, what we don't like, in that kind of sense. And then we'll have a situation where we start to have more familiarity with things, and we might find we actually like, so we may not like certain fruits to start, and then we start to like them, right? Because we're now more familiar and it's not so unfamiliar. So we develop a sense of awareness later on about, well, something can change. So you have that kind of genetic identity that comes. And in general, most times in how we evolved in the world was we all grouped as groups, right? Because as groups, we were safe in our particular group. So that gave us an ethnic identity and an identity of culture, or identity of society, which then allows you a sense of belonging to. So I really want to kind of stress this belonging and the safety that comes with identity, because it's really important, because when we change ourselves, we are changing our identity, right? We're changing all of those structures that hold the identity together. And the fact is, we don't have to change everything. We just need to know what ones no longer serve us, what ones we've outgrown, that then allow us to have a sense of safety of what we can keep, what we like and what we want to keep, and what we don't want to keep. Because I think sometimes when we think, oh, we've got to change, we think that we still got to get rid of all the things that are good in our life, or the things that are worthwhile keeping. Yeah. And so what happens is causes a lot of disruption within ourselves. And I think that sometimes is why people find it difficult to change, because they think they've got to create a massive disruption, but maybe there's only disruption in some parts that need to change, not the whole. Right? Because you're still going to be the same person with the same biology, although the biology will be producing different chemicals now, because you're going to be slightly different as you evolve and change. But there'll still be a continuity of you, right? There's still going to be a continuity of who you are to some level, which will be there as your intrinsic self from when you were 7. So your essence, your soul essence, is who you are always going to be. How you move in the way you move in the world to become more of that is what I believe is where we shift and we clear away the things that hinder our real identity, the essence that we are. And we've come into this world as a flavor. All right, let's put it as a flavor, because each of us have a different culture. We come as a flavor, and that flavor has the ability to have extra added or some taken away. It has an ability to be enhanced. So I think when we think about our authentic self, it's about really knowing what is the core. What is the core of what we like, what we really don't like, what jars us, and then what are we wanting, so that we can really allow this part of us that's here to be able to express ourselves in the fullest of who we can be. And I think when we choose, first of all, I want to be this person that is this, You know, I'm here right now, but I know inside, in my core, this potential is here, right? All I'm doing is unleashing my core. I'm not actually changing my entire identity. What I'm doing is I'm showing my true identity in the way that it really is. And I think that's where our soul calls us, or where we get called in some way to do those things that we have natural aptitudes for, very often, which if we don't learn them as skills right at the start, that's where we find the challenge, because we haven't learnt the skills. But many people have an aptitude to do amazing things. And when we spend a little time to look at that, what those things are, we start to move more and more towards that sense of truth and authenticity of who we are. So yeah, I think it's really important to kind of think, and when you know who you belong to, which is you, when you kind of know, I don't like this and I like this, this is me, I like me, you start to feel safe, right? And when you like you, you're more likely to think in an alternative way, another way. And I loved what you said. You came here and you had to shift your identity. And I think what you started to do was accommodate where there were restrictions in your old identity, which was holding you back from being who you fully were. You were able to shift those so that that could come through, the real you could come through. Because the real you is that you that's kind and compassionate, and the real you is the person that wants to expand and grow. So, you know, those are the real us. Yeah, that's what we're here for. So I think that when it comes to shifting and changing identity, the only reason we struggle is, one, because we have spent a lifetime in a pattern, and that pattern has changed our brain, our neurology, and it requires a little bit of work. It doesn't, if we know how to think smart, if we know how to utilize what has been given to us in a way, and do it like we talked about atomic habits before, just a little bit of something every day, by a year will have shifted you way across towards where you need to be. So this is what it's about, isn't it? It's about those little shifts, not a massive shift, because very often a massive shift doesn't change you forever, because you're not growing the you that you need to be. Because when we want to change, often it's uncomfortable. And so you want to make sure that you grow in comfort, right? Not necessarily discomfort. You can expand yourself. Instead of thinking I'm going outside my comfort zone, you can expand the comfort zone so that it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So you never feel that feeling of, oh, I'm really out of thing. You keep going, I'm safe, I can do this. Yeah. So it might be a useful way to think about it as a different thing. Outside your comfort zone, that's kind of dangerous-ish. But if we say I'm expanding the zone and I can move even more, then all of a sudden it doesn't trigger the stress response in the body. It doesn't trigger the fear response. It makes us actually more curious and think, oh, I can do that. Let's see what else I can do. Yeah. So that's kind of a little bit of more my take on authentic self. But one of the things I really think before we can do anything is we need to have a deeper sense of self-awareness of ourselves and of others. And who we are and who we're not is really important. Because if we don't have that, if we have a sort of something that's jarring us, we can't shift it.
I love that, Shireen. I love what you said. That I was writing my notes, by the way, what we want to keep. You mentioned that, you know, when we change our identity, we're not actually changing the whole thing. We are deciding in our lives, what do we want to keep, what does not serve us anymore. Because it's like when I came here as well, that was my decision. That's how I actually recreated my identity. The things that I wanted to keep, there are some things that are I didn't want to keep because I knew that it doesn't align with the person that I am. And at the same time, I needed to keep although I'm living in this country, I needed to keep my authenticity as an African person, and not because this is a British, United Kingdom is for British people. So of course, I'm living in United Kingdom, learning British culture, but at the same time, people need to identify me as a person of where this person, okay, she lives in the UK, but she's not really originally from UK, and just keep my roots as well at the same time. And I think that is important as well, because there are some people, of course, they're British Africans, but they lose their identity and they start behaving something that they're not. So, and I love that idea of flavor as well. You mentioned the flavor and of the identity. I think that is really, really important. And also you mentioned the lots of points, like people struggle because they spend time in a pattern. And I think that is 100% true, because when you spend time in this pattern where it becomes a loop over and over and over and over, it becomes really, really hard to actually form your identity. And also you mentioned that when you are actually building your identity, recreating your identity, you have to think about your core values, beliefs, and principles that can guide you through the actions, whatever actions you want to take, and the decisions. And I think it's very, very important, more like personal values and beliefs. I think that is very, 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 very important when somebody wants to define. And I also like the questions that you've asked. What is that? What is it that defines our identity? And I think if somebody or any of our audience, they want to unleash their own identity, not to recreate, unleash it. So they need to ask themselves what defines their identity, why they want to create this identity, what is important, the meaningful, what influence, the significantly things that influence their identity as well. They need to think about that, their interest, their passion, and what brings them joy, the fulfillment in life, not what they see on social media. Because when we go on social media and we see somebody has posted and we connect with their post, it doesn't really give us joy. Even here at Ngozi Talk Shows, people can come and just watch the video. You can only watch the video and then go and put it to practice if you want it to work. But by just watching the video and say, you know what, I'm going to create my identity, and then you're not taking any actions. Like I've said before, that you have to create your habit. And Sharina, you mentioned that step by step, little things that we take for granted that makes a big, big difference in our lives. And I think that's how you actually create your own identity. And also the framework, have a good framework of life, and your hobbies, your talent, and any areas that can help you to actually engage with the world. And that can actually, like how you see the world, is how you can create your identity based on your core values. And because sometimes some people see the world as the world that is cruel. But if you see the world as a beautiful place that is mixed with the different cultures, different people, because we're not meant to be the same. We're all meant to be different cultures, different background, and different ethnicity, that is different heritages of people coming from different traditions. And that can help you to actually say, okay, this is the person that I am. This is my inheritage. This is who I am. This is where I come from. And then you can actually just write some questions yourself. And when you write those questions and then you answer them, and just sometimes when you're journaling, it helps you to actually write questions and answer them. It makes you uncomfortable when you create your life by asking yourself some questions. And then imagine the ending when you're asking yourself those questions. What do you want the ending to look like with this identity that you create, you actually unleashing within? And just go for it. It's amazing, but sometimes it can be a mountain that is hard to climb.
It can be.
Yeah, it can be a mountain that is hard. But if you fall and then you pick yourself up, that's why it's important to have a study, to have somebody who can motivate you, who can actually push you to get where you need to be. It's important to have a coach. We don't have coaches because we have coaches because we want the knowledge, what they know that we don't know. They've done some research. Like me, when I get a coach, I get a coach that has done some research, has the information that I already need, and then I just get on with it. They don't give me the information, but they help me to go deep with my mind, my thinking, making decisions. They are there to guide me through life. So it's very, very important to have an accountability partner. If you don't have an accountability partner, have a coach. Anything you want to add, Shireen?
Yeah, I think what you said there is really important in the sense that it is, we're not meant to do this journey alone, right? We're not, we are relational creatures. As much as we might like to do things alone, because by looking weak or by looking like an idiot or whatever the reason may be, that's really about something that is going to truly hinder you. One of the biggest things is the more that you open up to other people, the more expansive you are going to get. And you want someone that's on your side, who's going to champion you, who's going to believe in you, because sometimes we can't see that potential yet. Sometimes we don't even know our potential because we've either had too much trauma in our life, or we've really got what I'd call locked-in syndrome. So we kind of got a fixed mindset and we just can't get out of it, right? And sometimes you just need someone to be able to truly just believe in you and say, I know this is hard, but you can get through this, right? You can do this. What could be a small step, not a big step, because actually a lot of the time is we don't move because there's a lovely judge sitting and judging us all of the time. And it's that judge that suppresses us, that suppresses our authentic self. That judge is there to tell us it's too afraid. So we learned how to create these alter egos, these other parts of our mind very early on in order to fit into the society that we lived in, right? And in order to do that, we had to often compartmentalize ourselves or shut ourselves down, or not say the things that we would need to say. And because we know that if we do, problems might arise, right? So there was always about what's risky and what's not risky for us. So if you are lucky and you have a situation where, say, for example, you've come in and your mum has been absolutely in tune with you, your parents have been in tune with you, even if things are challenging and hard, you are more likely to be able to step out of that mindset very quickly. You're more likely to bounce back and be more anti-fragile. So we know this. Anti-fragile means bounce back. So we know that this is the case, but it also means that from a very early age, we have to begin that phase of developing that sense of self, of knowing, one, where we belong, because I think belonging is really important. Who do we belong to? Who's going to be there to champion us? So when we get a coach, in a way, we form a contract of belonging. I know it sounds very weird, but it is a kind of contract we create. And it is a kind of thing where where you and the coach agree that you will help me to move. You will champion me. You'll move me forward. You will be there when I struggle, right? So that you'll pull me up. And that's what we do as an adult, because we ask for a coach that's going to encourage us and will allow us and to augment us rather than diminish us. But often parents and society and a lot of things that go on actually diminish us, because we're, and so we lose that sense of who we authentically are. We lose ourselves very early in life. So when we don't get the opportunity to be able to question from a young age, or argue, or come up with alternative ideas for new and creative ways, then that's when we lose ourself. We lose our authentic self. And I think, as you were saying earlier on, Nomsa, it's where you feel joy, happiness, where you feel you're in your little happy zone. That's where the calling is, right? We're not going to the calling where it's addictive to the extent that we're doing nothing else. That's not happiness. But it's really where we're expanding ourselves fully enough in our body so that we can then give happiness outside, but from that place of fullness. But I think that's, from a sense of identity, our identity gives us that sense of belonging. It gives us that sense of safety. So when we move out from that place, from a sense of safety, that's when we have to have a very strong anchor to pull back to, right? So that when things are challenging, when things go wrong, we have a deep inner resource within us to be able to handle any situation. And I think that's what we're talking about. If you have some self-awareness, which you were talking about in the sense of, asking yourself questions, journaling. If we can sit down and really talk and ask these questions and keep asking for what we want, what will that look like? What would it feel like? What would it sound like? What would it taste like even? What flavor would it be? If it were a flavor, what would it be? Raspberry, maybe. So yeah, we would go into those and really just let yourself get engulfed in that, and then stop and go, oh, how does this really feel? Oh, do I like this? And just sit in it so that you can get a real sense of when you are on track and when you are not. Because you know that when you're not doing those little bits to take you where you need to go, the only way you know is a feeling. And the feeling is when you're going against your authentic self, the decision you made and the way you want to be is your authentic self. You made a contract with your authentic self. So it's a lovely way to think about and think, oh, that little feeling that I'm feeling, I'm not being my authentic self. I need to be my authentic self. What must my authentic self do? Oh, maybe I could go and do just a couple of exercises, or maybe I could have that glass of water. We can have a strategy or a plan, and those things will open up our way of doing those little minute things that we've contracted to do.
I love what you're saying, Sharina, about we have this lovely judge that sits there judging ourselves. And also you mentioned that we actually try to fit in with our society. The society contributes with our decisions, trying to fit in with people. And our parents, they play a big part as well, trying to fit in with everybody else, and that can diminish our own identity as well. I've seen people myself, they tell me what they want to do in life, but how they are living their life is completely different. So I'm like, why do you live like that then? And they're like, I don't want to upset my mom, or I don't want to upset my parents, because well, sometimes they would like to move away from the city where they are, or sometimes, or like I was talking to my website designer today, and he's taking a long time to build my website. His mom is in hospital. So I said, he's the only child. I said, what about the family members and stuff? And he was like, no, family members, we don't interact since my mom got married, because they wanted arranged marriage. But his mom chose his dad. When they met, they fell in love. That was true love. So for that, choosing your true love, she got rejected by the family, and he got rejected because they wanted the introduction to actually introduce them to the whatever they thought was right, like they introduced them to their cousins, Indian culture. So in those reasons, they don't interact with family members. So I was like, how are you feeling? Are you okay about that? Being the only child, having family, not interacting with them. It was like, it's something that I have had to come to terms with in life. And I'm happy that my mom and my dad, they met and they fell in love. I think that's a beautiful thing. And if you can imagine different cultures, different background, how many people who are in an arranged marriages and they're not happy, and that destroys your identity, because inside of you, that's not the person that you want to live. That's not the person that you want to become, marrying somebody because somebody has introduced you to. So I think it's very important for people to understand it doesn't matter what background you come from. Sometimes we have to be firm with our parents. We have to be firm with this society and just live the life of what we think is, what we believe is to be true. If you look at Jesus, he has his own commandment. He doesn't force anybody to actually follow him. He says, these are my 10 commandments. If you want to obey these 10 commandments, you can follow me. And he also leaves the love open. He says, come as you are, whether you are broken, whether you have shame, whether you feel guilty, whether you have done something or killed somebody, or you've done something. He says, come as you are, I will accept you. So it's very important for people when they're changing their identity to please somebody, just to look at long term, how is it going to affect them? Because it is very important to actually, like, life is beautiful. Life is precious, but if we don't actually look after ourselves properly, we can face challenges in life when it comes to relationships and how we form them. So when you form a relationship, when you hang out with friends, make sure you hang out with people that accept you for who you are, that are contributing to your identity, that are actually, they influence the person you are meant to become. And that's why, Shireen, you mentioned that self-reflection is important, and self-expression as well is very important. When somebody expresses who they are, their emotions, their thoughts, and sometimes people can speak. That's why people say action, they speak louder than words. Where people can say words, they can say words that don't mean anything. But now is how we put those things into action that will shape our lives. So it's very important to wear your true authentic coat. And no matter how hard things, for me, I always say to myself, I rather have 3 or 2 friends, or even one, as long as I know that person is real to me. There's no point in trying to create your identity and being surrounded by fake friends that are not going to help you or shape your life. And even our parents. For me, I don't do things to make my mom happy. Even my mom will never do things to make me happy. I am 45 now. Sometimes she tells me off. If I do something, or if I actually, I think she'll tell me off if I don't become the person that I want to become. She would really tell me off, because that's not how my parents raised me. They raised me to actually become the person that I want to become. And it's important. But there are some parents, when they look at their children, they're like, oh, well, you do well becoming a doctor, or becoming a lawyer, or becoming this, becoming that. They have these ideas that they have planted into their children. But for me, I've always, like, I take my time when it comes to making a decision to become the person that I am. I always take my time to think about my life. Who does Nomsa want to become? And I ask myself, what do I read? Why am I doing these things that I do? And I was talking to the web designer, and I was like, oh, we're talking. So I was like, oh, we could actually, and we're talking. I said, if you see anything, you just give me some advice. And then while we were talking, and he was like, both of us, we just went, why can't we just put Nkosi Talk Show's page here? Because that's what NOMSA, that's what it creates us, so people can actually know that the true identity of Hope Spring Eternal Introduction Agency, and the true identity of NOMSA as well. So we're like, yeah, that makes sense. We were like, that makes sense, so that people actually can just walk through this journey, and they know that this is what they are getting through life. So you have to create things like, not like, if you look at some, like even my website, if you read my website, my old website, it was designed properly. But if you go and read the messages was fine, professional, but it was written based on what other matchmakers have written their website. It's like there's no identity, but there is a professionalism that does not actually define who NOMSA is. So I had to, when this website disappears, I was like, actually, I need to create my identity. When I'm reading all these matchmaking websites, yes, they are written properly. Yes, is the process of matchmaking, but it's not really the language that I speak when it comes to love, my understanding with love. So I was like, I think I need to do the language that I speak. So I was like, hey, I'm just going to speak my language. It might not make sense to other people. And that's what it makes us stands out. Just creating the people that we want to become. It's nice if I go to your website, Shireen, and then I read, I'm like, oh, wow, she helps women do this. And I'm like, wow, that's the identity. And then if I go and read somebody else, it has to be different, not like written in a similarity. And so I was like, I think I need to change my, I need to be me. And Carol Ann was laughing as well. She was like, she was like, I'm looking forward to this identity of yours, Noms. I was like, yeah, I actually, the message is fine, it's 100% fine, but it's just written like everybody else. But we're not meant to do that. Even though we do the same thing with similar things, we have to write it in our own way. So I was like, okay, I think I need to change my language, how I put things down, and not like put it like everybody else. So I agree with you, Shireen, when you say sometimes we try to fit in, and when we try to fit in, sometimes it doesn't help. I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
I think you've pretty much covered everything that's really, really relevant there. And I love that that you're you're talking from your voice as your own authentic self with your website, and having a journey that people can see, that they can get to know who you are rather than who somebody else is. Because that's, I mean, people buy people, or rather, not that they buy you as such, but they buy into a concept or an idea because that's what they're hoping to achieve for themselves, isn't it? They want that kind of sense of being. But I think when we're doing that in a sense of our authenticity, then that is who we have to be all the time. And as long as it's the you that's consistent, right? The you that shows up predictably like that particular person every day. And that's the bit that really will bring in a sense of safety for a client. They need to know that they're safe when they see you. They need to know that you are bringing that sense of safety for them, and the sense of hope as well. That sense of, as you said, your hope springs eternal. So you want to bring in hope. You need to bring in hope and focus on that. What is my message all the time? It's about bringing in hope. That's essential to my authenticity. It's essential to my sense of beingness. Can be really, really powerful, especially even if on those days when it is challenging, to be able to still be able to switch enough that you show that that's still a bubbling aspect of yourself, of your authentic self. Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful aspect to keep in mind as you are keeping in that mind. So I suppose that then just brings me back into a sort of a question, or probably more about what do we do? How do we shift into a different identity? What gives us a way of doing that could be easy and relatively effortless? Because I think that's quite important, and I think it can be quite a challenge for people, certainly that are wanting to change and wanting to have more of what they've developed. So I suppose for me, that's the kind of question that I suppose even just the desire of knowing we want something else is a really good start of knowing. And I think for me, really, I really do like to think about the idea of we're actually just growing ourselves to become our full self, our adult self, the self that's able to shift and to have a kind of rigidity, but a flexibility at the same time to assimilate new things and to integrate those new things so that there can be a new aspect of you, a new way of thinking about things, a new way of being in that sort of thinking, for me. And I suppose that I think that one of the key things, if we have a pattern, is to realize that we're going to have to do something consistently to break the pattern. And sometimes it could be very simple, like having an affirmation that we might say, right? Or I did something the other day, which I wrote. I was doing something for, part of my thing is about bringing the newborn children into the world. So having a new way, a new paradigm for the earth. And I believe that helping mums have babies that are not so primed, that when they come into the world, they're a lot more gentler, more able to be resilient, that sort of thing. But it does require a deeper commitment at some level when kind of I don't necessarily always know what to write or what to do. Where do I go next? But if you have something that's like you can say a commitment that you write out to yourself, it could be like, and what often helps is writing out, not just to yourself, but who the self that would be serving is also a very useful thing. So I did mine, which I called it was a letter of allegiance to, right? Because in nursing, when I nursed, I used to realize that mine was really, we did the Hippocratic Oath, but we made an allegiance to something. So when we have a commitment that becomes a commitment that we won't break. So because sometimes it's very easy to kind of, once it starts to get hard, to kind of slip, right? So it's useful to have something that we will look at and we will feel connected to, so that we will keep on the journey that we've promised ourselves that we want to do. I think that can be a very helpful way of doing something. And definitely journaling and asking and really finding out who you are, who you want to be, and who you're not, and who you will never be, so that you can really allow those to be very clear, so that when you're off the track, you can deal with that quite quickly, deal with the dissonance that happens in your body. So for me, those are the kinds of things that I think are really important, and recognizing that. And I suppose there's something that's kicking for me, is we have a gift that we've all been given, which in the Bible talks about how do we enter the kingdom of heaven, right? And the kingdom of heaven is a state of mind. So when we choose to live in a particular state of mind, we choose to live in the kingdom. And that then activates a whole series of things within our body, within our energy field, that then means that everybody that comes to us will be affected in a positive way. And that means that makes it easier for them to give and for you to receive, and you to give and them to receive. So you become this conduit that allows things to come in and go out, come in and go out in a way of ease and flow. And at the same time, of course, you get more because you're giving, right? So you get this really nice balance that builds. So I think that one of the things is really being aware that we're just one step away from heaven every time we make a decision to think a different way. So if we kind of automatically, if we have a voice that's telling us that, we're no good, that we actually turn around in that moment and say, no, that's not true. That's not what the kingdom of heaven is about. The kingdom of heaven is about happiness. So what can I do here to be happy in this next moment? And that will take you, because it is a state of being, and that means it's a state of feeling, right? It's a state of feeling of our body. So it's something that's there. We can access that at a switch of our mind, and we can have happiness in the next moment. And all we need to do is keep doing happiness moments to develop a pattern of happiness. So, yeah, and I think that then you get a sense of agency and think, oh, I can do this. Oh, I must be capable. Oh, right, I must be quite good at this. Oh, and you can start, oh, wow, okay, so then it's obviously ordained that I must have this, right? And all of a sudden things start to change, because that's how it escalates up in the way of our thinking.
I love that, Shireen. That is what you're saying, is basically people, they need to embrace their uniqueness qualities. And is very, very important to also, what Shireen has just said, to identify your strength and your weaknesses. Because if you do identify all that, that's why journaling, what Shireen was saying, when you do journaling, it helps you to actually be authentic, because when you're writing, you bring out the real you. You'll be able to let go of self-doubt, because the self-doubt is always there. And also setting boundaries. When you set boundaries, is very, very important, and also prioritize your well-being, protect your time, your energy, how you respond to things, to your surroundings is very, very. Make sure your surrounding you're surrounding yourself with a positive influential people, and that's very, very crucial when it comes to life. And seek support if you need that support. And also, if you feel that there is fear of the unknown when you're creating this identity, know that that's why you have to surround yourself with positive people. Talk to people. Don't just talk to anyone. Don't be afraid, and don't judge yourself, because we are very, very good at judging ourselves. And just understanding living an authentic life, it can bring so many joy in life. It can bring, just be willing to step out of your comfort zone. That's all I can say. And self-care, and remember, you are also the author of your story. You are the creator of your destiny. No one else, no one can create your own destiny. We choose, like Shireen was talking about, think about the image of the kingdom of God. So when you think about that image, for me, it helps me a lot as well. I think about Jesus. When I'm making a decision, I think about Jesus, how he was rejected, how he went to so much pain. Even his family, his siblings could not understand him as a person. So I'm like, if this man that was brought on earth to create this world, if he couldn't be accepted by people, so what makes me? Do I really think that I'm not going to have people that are going to reject me? So I'm like, I'm okay with it. So that's how I create my own identity, by looking at things. I just look at the bigger picture, and I say, somewhere in this universe, there's people that God has put in place for me to help me, my helpers. There's my portion of life. There's my portion of my identity. Why should I live based on somebody else's identity? I can't do that. I have to live based on my identity, unapologetic. Sometimes you have people that are gonna agree with you. It is okay, 100%. For people, if they don't agree, it's fine. That's why what makes us unique is knowing our differences. Our differences, they help us stand out. They help us become who we want to become. So, Shireen, is 3 minutes past 2. Do you have like any words of encouragement? And also tell our audience where they can find you, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You can find Shireen through me as well.
Of course. But my name is SherinLovegrove.com is my website. You can find me on all social media as Sherin Lovegrove, so it's not a problem. So yeah, just to really recognize, I think the key thing here is know who you are. Know who you are and who you want to become. I think those are the two key things, because if you don't know who you are, you can't know who this essence is, right? And understand that you're going to be changing throughout your life. And when we say changing, I don't say you're going to become different. You're going to be just becoming more of who you really are, right? Who your soul is, who you became right at the very, very beginning. And you're just expanding that, because those are the gifts, and you are the unique gift to the world. So that's the bit that you need to show and express. Nobody else is like you. No one can be like you, ever. So it's really important to be aware of that, and to sit quietly and go, yeah, I am. I am the only person that's alive here in this lifetime. That is me, with the same genes. Right, not even twins, not even biological twins have the exact same DNA presentation, right? They might have the same genes, but the DNA presentation of how those genes are expressed are different. So yeah, nobody is the same as you. So you can be as proud of it as you like, because no one is going to ever top that. And also you've got one lifetime, and you may as well live it well now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shireen. And we are here at Ngozi Talk Shows Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel and be part of the family. If you're watching us on Facebook, we have a group, Ngozi Talk Show group. You can like our page as well. And then we also have a unique billionaire mindset group. You can join the group as well. Use psychology to put yourself out there, your name out there, so people can know what you do and connect with you in an authentic way. And you can follow me. You can follow myself on LinkedIn or I'm all social media, Twitter, you can find me there, or Instagram. Unfortunately, I don't have a website at the moment, but you can use my email on my business page on Facebook. I think on LinkedIn, all my social media, my contact details are there. You can use my emails and my phone number to get through to me, my office number as well. So if you want to connect, or you are looking for love and you don't know where to begin, or if you want coaching, or you want just a free consultation, you just get in touch, create your own identity, and live with grace, everyone, and God bless.